Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to Nesby Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an actor named Ross Edwards. Apparently it is a cover of a Justin Bieber song. This is titled Ghost or Jenga's Ghost, performed by Ross Edwards. If we switch over to here, Ross Edwards aka Daddy Ross. I think it's the first time listening through Daddy Ross's music. It'd be good to hear their sort of rendition of this cover, and we're going to listen through it from start till finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. I do recognize this track actually, yeah. How are we going to differentiate?
Young blood thinks there's always tomorrow. I miss your touch on nights when I'm hollow. I know you'll cross the bridge that I can't follow. Since the love that you left is all that I gained, I want you to know that if I can't be close to you, I'd settle for the ghost of you. I miss you more than life. And if you can't be next to me, your memory is ecstasy. I miss you more than life. I miss you more than young blood thinks there's always tomorrow. I need more time, but time can't be borrowed. I'd leave it all behind if I could fall. Since the love that you left is all that I get, I want you to know that if I can't be close to you, I'd settle for the ghost of you. I miss you more than life. And if you can't be next to me, your memory is ecstasy. I miss you more than life. I miss you more than life.
Sorry to pause, I won't do it again, but I've just realized I've listened to the original version of this. I miss you more than life with the name Ghost. I've just never really sort of clicked to the connection between those though. That's really, it's actually quite clever.
If I can't get close to you, I'd settle for the ghost of you. But I miss you more than life. And if you can't be next to me, your memory is ecstasy. And I miss you more than life. I miss you more than life.
Okay, that was a really interesting cover there. Daddy Ross with Jenga's Ghost. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Ross Edwards, or Daddy Ross, this cover of the Justin Bieber track titled Ghost. In this section, I'm going to be providing an overall song analysis as well as any sort of applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track's about? I think this track is about the concept of missing someone so much that they don't exist in your life, and you're like a ghost to them, or they're like a ghost to you, and you just wish that you could be with them, but the memory is ecstasy at the same time. So it's effectively saying that, like, even knowing them is lots. You just don't want to forget that person no matter what. You know, you don't want to take for granted your attention or connection to that person. I think that that's kind of a sentiment that a lot of people can get behind. I think it's a beautiful thing to discuss in a track. I feel that Daddy Ross, Ross Edwards, puts their own spin about it immediately with the way that we sing it. I think that we hit the notes clearly. There are some interesting effects tails to the vocals. It's to a point where it's very stylized, and I'm not sure if I'm necessarily a massive fan of how it's done, but I think If it's more of a way of differentiating ourselves from how a lot of other people do that kind of stuff within the genre, that's totally fine. I mean, like with the kind of tuning we were doing there, we were definitely hitting the notes cleanly. There's a bit of vibrato occasionally as well. The cadence was a little bit different than the original, I think, which is totally fine. We're allowed to do things differently, and it sort of segments and separates us from the original in a way where, I mean, you can definitely tell there's a difference between the two from the vocal range alone. You know, Justin Bieber's in a higher sort of pitch, and that's so fine, but I do like how earnest and honest and authentic the actual performance seems. It's nice to not be over-performing, and I also think that the additional kind of like higher range overdubs that we have as harmonies as well kind of color the mix really neatly and are nice sort of like accompaniment to the lower range sort of main components of the piece on the mic. This track is 2 minutes 42 long, and it's right within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I feel like there's enough time to elaborate on what the track is about without overstaying its welcome. And there's range sort of compositionally within this piece, stops and starts, sort of dynamic sort of like composition there. And I feel like just starting the track as well with the mixture of those elements we had there was a good idea, primarily because I think maybe the original starts like that, which is totally fine. I mean, either way, where we're letting the person know what the track is, and then we come in soon enough to be able to let people know that it's a different version. We have this interesting kind of like initial key part where there's like distortion to the keys, and it's kind of fuzzy and it's kind of spicy sounding, almost like a memory there, but because it's an extension there, it's very sweet sounding in its range there. It's an interesting textural choice there. I think they were maybe going for more of a kind of grittier tone to it, and that's totally fine if that's the case. With the filtering that we get as well in certain parts there, it seems to be a deliberate decision. They clearly understand how to sort of handle the production side of things there. So I think the distortion was deliberate, and as we kind of balanced the mix and kind of maybe the distortion was even as a kind of point of interest. Yeah, no, I'm listening back to it, and yeah, they've clearly opened up the filter and are doing that as a kind of introductory thing there to kind of have it kind of like open over time. I dig that. I think that's smart there, to have like the keys and sort of call and response vocals and the drums come in there, the keys playing main sort of triads, either inverted or sort of like first versions of those sort of chords within the progression there. A very satisfying 3-chord movement. To have the drums kind of playing a sort of a breakbeatish kind of dun 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 dun. It's just a very kind of like steady pace there that seems like we're in a hurry, even though we don't necessarily want to. We want to kind of stay at the point in time to be able to appreciate what we've lost or who we had. With some kind of slidey guitar, kind of like synth leads as call and responses to certain parts that seem sort of wistful and are an inch, or like a theremin or something like that. So it's almost like with the slide guitar kind of components there, we're trying to add like a kind of a country hip hop kind of lean to it with again like the electronic drums there and a lot more sort of contemporary. It's really fascinating, dude. It's a really interesting composition. And of course, then we have the strummed steel strings around that 45-second mark, which makes total sense there. It's a very gentle kind of lay within the frequency spectrum and stereo field there within the composition itself. We're playing those open chords there, which are very kind of cheery and bright without being too much. And just sounds like someone at a campfire telling a story to those who will listen. There are some unconventional kind of sounds on the percussion at certain points there that I'm not sort of necessarily used to. I think maybe it's just a point of interest, kind of ear candy kind of thing there, which is totally fine if that's the case. I mean, it's just yeah, I suppose it does kind of like catch you out if you're kind of getting too lost in it. As we get the strings, for example, around the 1 minute 45 mark there, they decorate the higher range there, and again are a foil hum in terms of the range to where the vocalist is, you know, Daddy Ross for the most part. I think that niches nicely. They're not competing for attention there. And there's like fluctuations to those strings as they kind of glow in the mix, and they're very kind of bright and pretty sounding. And I think this is a quiet celebration of the time we have with this person, even though we're kind of mourning things with a minor lean for the most part, sort of thematically. And I like that the strings, especially near the end of the outro section, aren't trying to sort of separate themselves from what a lot of the kind of like the vocal parts are doing melodically there. We're trying to form a sort of connection between those, have things in unison there to kind of rise up and down with the feeling of the vocals. And we actually resolve on a major then, which is interesting. Maybe we're kind of glad that we had this person in our life in the first place. I'm not sure, but either way, the dominant key signature is like a major, isn't it? It doesn't kind of mentally sound like it would go to a minor to finish. So therefore it's a very gentle, interesting track then. There's like a subtle sadness, but then the glow and the timbre and textures, a lot of the elements within the arrangement instrumentally there, they sound very sort of like peaceful and like they're trying to sort of walk you through it. I think the drums there with a kind of push or tempo of that is to make it a bit more sort of like catchy sounding and to provide more sort of rhythmic kind of interest within the piece compositionally. Because if everything is very gentle, it's like kind of a track you can kind of fall asleep to. Not in the way where I think it's boring, but it's just extremely relaxing to listen to, I think, for the most part. So I'm glad that there's the drums for that kind of push. But yeah, thematically, the major kind of resolution to this, we are showing gratitude for this person having been with our life. And I think that that's kind of a wonderful thing. I think it just goes to show that when you initially hear the story, it's worth thinking about how the music interacts with that in order to build a bigger perspective. So I think that's clever, both within the original as well as the cover. And I also think avoiding the use of sort of complicated extensions or sort of working within the diatonics of the scale and not including too many sort of chromatics or anything like that is smart, simply because there's enough variety with the quarters, eighths, triplets, and other rhythms within the piece. The stop starting of certain elements, they're removing certain components and bringing them back in to establish kind of stop and pause and return to the flow of it. I think there's enough going on without needing to have the chords try and sort of like affect you too much. We're not trying to sort of make it too more emotionally complicated. But the studio recording, mixing, and mastering is well handled for the most part. Again, I wasn't initially super sold on the way that the vocals were stylized, but I think by the end of it, it made sense. And I think, again, this day and age, your voice needs to be distinct. And if we're going to sort of add sort of tuning to it in a way that doesn't just allow us to hit the notes, but allows us to sort of stand out from the original, that's totally fine. The strings, the guitars, the bass, the drums, the keys, everything like that, you could follow along with things fairly easily, and there was no issues in returns or in regards to any sort of like resonant frequencies that surrounded you in the headphones as well, for nice and full. Again, there was a bit of dynamic range sort of compositionally, not necessarily within the actual production side of things, but that's totally fine, and it's nice and loud with a bit of pumping. So bass compression and limiting was handled. No real applicable constructive critique for me. I think this is a really solid cover. And again, just from a general listener's perspective, I am glad that they've managed to successfully differentiate themselves from Justin Bieber's original. I'm just not as familiar with the original to sort of really comment on it too much. I assume there have been some differences within the actual instrumental backing of it, but definitely the vocals are different, and that's one of the most fundamental ways to make a cover work. If you try and do it the exact same way Justin Bieber has done, then that can be problematic from like a streaming and legalities perspective, but it's good. Again, we made our own version of it. I feel like I enjoyed my time with this track, and thank you for watching my review of the song. The cover, the Justin Bieber track by Daddy Ross Edwards, the song titled Ghost, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time. It's need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.